guess I'm wiring up the emergency fuel switch. So this is about as switchy as I get. I absolutely hate relays. Read my lips. They are nothing but trouble. They are horrible. They will let you down. It's a question of when. Switches are better, but they too can fail. So this is as switchy as you'll see me get. No part of this system is dependent on a switch. There's power going through one side of the emergency switch, and it is an emergency power route. The other side is actually all discrete signals and grounds to switch power paths on and off. So when you go into emergency fuel switch mode, it essentially kills if there was any electricals from the main source. And so you got two fuel pumps. And so this switch essentially enables a second switch down here, and there's no current going through these unless you're in emergency mode. Then current will go through the left side of this switch, but otherwise no switches in this aircraft are actually carrying current, so they'll last forever. And you have more than two ways. You're not dependent on a switch. So then if the switch doesn't work, because it's essentially just a ground signal, you can actually go into the G3X and manipulate your whole electrical system. And you'll probably be able to do stuff like that in GA someday. We're pretty close. We're pretty much already there. But, you know, in experimental, that's probably the biggest, most awesome thing about it. That's a bomb for reliability. This is definitely the way to go. So this is essentially a fused source to the battery. And over here is an emergency ECU. In emergency mode, this switch will carry current. And this whole little setup here essentially gives your fuel 4 different routes to keep a fuel pump. And it's fairly clever too. The main switch down here is not installed, but I'm actually going to use a double pole down here, and I will invert the current path and the signals on this main switch. And essentially what that's going to do is this thing runs so high PSI that if you're under much of a load, you probably just about can't switch a fuel pump fast enough, or even your fuel source fast enough, which theoretically is where relays would come in and save your butt, but they have a much higher degree of failure than the pumps themselves. Most of the time when they go bad, it's actually the relay. So it's like, wow. So what this will do is if your fuel pump quits for whatever reason, you'll get an alarm, you'll get a message. You can switch fuel pumps if you're fast enough. You won't have to restart the engine, but you're probably not going to be, because there's just always this initial shock like, wait, what? But you can switch really fast. However, I'm wiring it so that, you know, this is all red on this side. All the emergency stuff is in one location with one finger. If you ran up in between the guards and just flipped to emergency, even if it wasn't an emergency, nothing bad happens. But if it's an emergency, it will not only go to a completely independent new power source and ground, but it also immediately switches your fuel pumps all in one operation. It doesn't matter if the fuel pump quit, which they kind of really don't, but even if it did, or if your power source failed, or if, you know, some chipmunk is going mad inside your dashboard and cut your wire in half. It doesn't really matter. That fuel pump, you shouldn't be trying to use it anymore. If it quit, use the other one. So even if you get a detailed message telling you that it's overcurrent or it is shorted, you need to switch not only energy sources, but you need to switch fuel pumps. So when you go to emergency, wired up this way, it will automatically go to your other fuel pump. And then if you want, I want to use that one, you can come down to the main switch and go back to the old one. But as it is, I'm wiring it up to where, I mean, hey, if crap's hit the fan and you decide it for whatever reason, doesn't matter which fuel pump you're using, when you hit this, it pulls a direct source from the battery that is only fused, and it's very high, because I don't really care about burning up the pump. You'll be able to see how much current it's pulling. But, you know, if that pump is, for whatever reason, if it's overcurrent, you need to be using the other one. You flip that switch, you'll get a new power source, a new ground, and you'll be using the other pump. It's about as switchy as I ever really get. Other than that, I'm not a fan of switches. They're extremely necessary, but I absolutely hate relays. And 99.9% of the time, they are not necessarily, thanks to solid state electronics, which have replaced relays. Well, there's really all kinds, but in a nutshell, it's an electromagnetic coil that will charge up an electromagnet, so a light signal, a light amount of power, to charge up and suck at a contact that can then complete another circuit, or sometimes 2 or 3 circuits, so they can shut stuff off. You know, they can open stuff, they can close stuff. And there is one relay in this entire aircraft that I really could not get around. And it is the most high quality, not made in America, but it's the most high quality European relay that I could find. And it is the only relay in this whole aircraft.